You are now listening to the Fantasy
Whisper
Podcast with your hosts, Johnny Game Time Hicks and Big Travie.
What's going on, Whisper Nation? This is Johnny Game Time Hicks, and that's Big Travie, and we're here to give you that fantasy football fix. Big Travie, what a crazy weekend in the NFL, man. It was like there was a lot of scoring, but it was to people that don't normally score the football.
Yeah, just when you think you know something in the NFL, it likes to smack you around and say, you don't know nothing yet.
Yeah. And then on
fantasy is just a very humbling game we play here, Johnny.
And then on top of that, Travis. So I'm in a weekly. We're in the League of Records. You know, I got a good matchup going, right? And you know, it was an early morning for me. I'm not gonna lie. We were up early. You and I were both working. We're working on getting some videos and stuff out. Took a little nap ski. In the second games, you know, I fall asleep. I'm only down by 10. I got two guys. I got Mark Ingram and I got OBJ going tomorrow. Guy I'm playing only has Kittle. I'm down by 10. I'm feeling pretty confident. Wake up to see that the only touchdown that San Francisco scores went to Kittle, and I hear it was a booth review. It was challenged, and I am just, are you kidding me? 18 points from Kittle?
Yeah, man. Jeez. He's been a tight end one. He's been solid. And that's the one area you'd say on the Rams defense that's just been for sure leaking. I was telling people a lot of that in those Instagram stories. I know it hurt you, Johnny, but Kittle's a guy you got to watch out for. And you know what? I think your players maybe didn't perform because you fell asleep on him.
Yeah, I believe that.
You took a little nap on him.
I fully believe that. I try to hold on as long as possible, and that's what I get. But that's all right. I got OBJ. Hopefully he goes off tomorrow. I need you, OBJ. I'm looking you in the camera, dude. I know you watch the show. I'm looking you in the eyeballs. I'm pulling a Travis here because it seemed to work last time with Kerryon Johnson.
It did work.
We'll talk about
that later.
Hey, jinx. But so I'm going to do it right now. I'm pulling a big Travie here. OBJ, do me a solid, man. I need 2 touchdowns and 100 yards from you tomorrow. Come on, brother. You could do it. But we got a great show today, Travis, but first, before we get to the Monday night game, we got to go over this past, Sunday's games, and we're going to get into it. We're going to we got our crowns, downs, and rebounds episode number 35 on the season. Big Travie, I'm pumped up, man.
Yeah, it's always good to dive in a little bit deeper. Some guys you maybe didn't realize are putting up consistent numbers or consistently going the other direction and just have that name value, and you wonder, we're going to try and help you just go through your decision process, what to do with these guys.
Yep. But like always, as first, we got our news and notes, and it was a dangerous week. But we'll get into it right now.
News and notes from around the NFL.
That's right, Johnny. Our news and notes are, as always, brought to you by Fanatic. That's FANATIQ. That's where fantasy meets IQ. Listen up, Whisper Nation. If you have an Apple iPhone, iPad, or any Mac device, you need to go to the App Store and get Fanatic, FANATIQ. These guys break everything down in there. They've got news. They've got notes. We get our news and notes from them. They have charts. They have statistical breakdowns of players' last 3 games. They've got red zone stats. They've got carries and pass attempts, everything you need to make those quick hit decisions on your lineups. And then if you're stuck there and you're deciding between a few players, you got yours truly, Big Travie and Johnny Game Time Hicks rankings right there on the app. This thing is great. I love it. And the best thing, Johnny, is they're updating it every day. I mean, they come out with new stats that are just blowing me away every single day. So we're excited to get dive in deeper with the app, show you guys maybe some potential videos breaking down these stats. We love the guys over at Fanatic.
All right. The first news that we're going to talk about won't be the major news, but we had LaShawn McCoy was being evaluated for a head injury, which is kind of crazy because if you watch the play, they even on them, it looked like an ankle, and they even circled the ankle, And it turns out that it was a head injury, so definitely monitor this. Lewis Murphy, as well as the backup there, also got injured, Travis. And so Lewis Murphy ended up coming in. Chris Ivory got injured later on in the game, and then Lewis Murphy came in and actually looked pretty solid. Is he going to be on one of your list of waiver wire pickups this week? You want to let the Whisper Nation know on possibly, is this guy someone you want to look at?
Marcus Murphy. I was trying to figure out who you were talking about there. I'm sorry about that, Johnny.
Yeah.
No, I was stalled a little bit. Yeah, Marcus Murphy, it will be on the waiver report just based on 4 carries for 53 yards. That's a 13.3 average. He busted off a nice 30-yard long one. Listen, Buffalo is nasty. You don't want any part of Buffalo, but a starting running back is a starting running back these days. And so you're going to want to get a piece of that offense only if it's the starting running back and it's one guy, because we've seen Shady and Ivory actually have high carry games. So if he can bust off, some good runs, like, you have some value in a starting running back.
For sure. All right. The big news was that Sony Michel went out in week 7 with a apparent knee injury. Now, there's no update on the significance of that injury, but I will say that watching that live, it looked bad. Like, it was all twisted up. His ankle got caught, and it didn't look good. He couldn't put any weight on it coming off the field. You saw an increase in carries from James White, as well as Barner came in to the game. And
so that breakdown, Johnny, was 11 carries for James White, 10 carries for Kenyon Barner. So definitely Kenyon Barner will be on the waiver list as well. He's going to be a guy that, depending on the extent of the Sony Michel injury, which, Johnny just said it there, did not look good. This is a guy that could be set up for some goal line looks, and that's always valuable on a Patriots team.
Also, I'm gonna mention this. I try to dig as much as what we do here at Whisper Whisper headquarters. Excuse me, I can't talk today. I try to dig a little deep. Maybe one thing: if you have an extra spot, a burner spot on your bench, and you're not in an ESPN league, because I heard ESPN leagues, but an interesting name is my boy, the one who's a free agent right now, and that's Gillislee.
Oh, man.
You laugh, but check him out on the way. I'm just saying, if you have an extra spot, you might be able to jump ahead of that. There is rumors that they could be looking at him. So it's just a deep dive. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but if you can jump ahead of that wave and get on it, it might be.
What Johnny's not telling you guys is Mike Gillislee's actually crashing on his couch right now. Hey, he's trying to get him some work.
I heard the phone ring, and I don't know. He won't tell me if it was New England or not. But I'm just saying, if you got an extra spot, you could do worse. If
you got an extra spot, pick him up, because Johnny's tired of having him on his couch. He needs somebody else to take him off his hands for him.
All right. We got Albert Wilson was forced from the game on Sunday against the Lions with a right leg injury and is questionable, and he never came back to the game. Excuse me. It looked pretty bad. It looked like kind of an hyperextension. We don't know the extent of it yet. He definitely didn't come back to the game, and this is crazy because he was killing it for the Dolphins. And then what made this even worse, Travis, was the team is trying to trade Devontae Parker, and so he wasn't activated. So they were actually down a wide receiver, and they were stuck. They kind of shot himself in the foot because apparently, according to Devontae Parker's agent, Parker's fully healthy. He's ready to go. He wants to play and contribute to a team. So this is not looking good, Travis.
Yeah, listen, I think it's just becoming every other week we don't know who the guy is. I mean, you just look at it right now, and leading the Dolphins in receiving this week with Parker out, with with Wilson missing time, it was Danny Amendola. So it's like every other week Danny Amendola gets 6 catches for 84 yards. Every other week, it's another number 1 wide receiver in Miami. It's hard to continue to monitor this and know which guy is going to be. I will say that the exit of Wilson and Wilson being banged up could see more looks for Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake got 8 targets in the backfield. So he led the team in targets out of the backfield. So that's pretty good.
All right, we had Kiki Cutie left the game on Sunday after aggravating a hamstring injury. This didn't help Deshaun Watson, who is also dealing with an injury of his own. A report came out that he has a reported bruised lung. It's significant enough. We'll get more into Deshaun Watson in a little bit, hint, but it's not looking fully healthy, or he's not looking fully healthy. They actually had him travel to Jacksonville in a bus because they didn't feel confident enough putting him in a plane, Travis. You want to touch on this just a little bit?
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you can't fly, but we want you to get hit by, professional linebackers. Like, yeah. I have no idea, but I'm not surprised, man. This guy was taking shot after shot in that Dallas game a couple weeks ago. Me and Johnny were talking about how crazy and scary that was to watch.
Yeah.
And yet, here he is down the line. This might want to be one of those things that lingers throughout the season. And if they don't get better protection on him, which this game he only was sacked once, which talk about either Jacksonville, not doing too hot as a pass rush, or maybe Houston's cleaning it up. I don't know, but only sacked once. So if they can keep him upright a little bit more, he'll have a better shot to nurse this throughout the rest of the season.
And a little TV timeout here to pivot off of that, Travis. This is why we tell you when we're doing our draft specials not to take a defense early, because it changes so much from year to year. Look, a lot of people took Jacksonville so early in drafts, and they have not produced up to that draft spot. So that's why it's
let's talk about a team like the number 1 defense in fantasy football is the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about a team that nobody would have drafted. It was picked up off the waivers. It's now the number 1 scoring defense in fantasy. Yeah. It's very volatile that you don't know who it's going to be each and every week.
Exactly. So speaking of the Jets,
or year.
Speaking of the Jets, the last bit of injury news here is that Bilal Powell got injured. He did walk to the sidelines under his own power, but he did not return to the game. Continue to monitor this. This would significantly increase, Crowell's value. However, the backup running back for the Jets came in. Trenton Cannon came in, and he actually produced quite well for them. So that could be another guy that Travis writes about in his article. Make sure you check that article out. He comes out with that. What day do you come out with that, Travis?
Yeah, so the waiver wire piece is published on Tuesday mornings. So as you're getting geared up for your waivers, we push that out. That's our waiver wire whisper of the week. And we just try to pump out a bunch of information on those guys. And so, yeah, it'll be nice and running back heavy this week, which, the last few weeks it's been on wide receivers just because of the depth of the position. But we're starting to see some injuries happen. The injury bug's creeping up as it tends to do. But, yeah, to touch on Trenton Cannon, 5 targets. He got 4 of them, 69 yards receiving. He filled that Bilal Powell rollout. And so we talk about how Bilal Powell is the safer option in that Jets backfield because of the receiving work. Trenton Cannon will have some value for the Jets.
Yep. And you can catch that article on thefantasywhisperers.com. All right, Travis, you ready to get in today's show?
I am ready.
Let's do it. We're going to start out with some Week 7 crowns. These guys are the ones that are carrying your team, and they most likely, if you had them on your team, you will prevail this week. All right, Travis, you want to start off the Whisper Nation? Who you got first for your first crown of the Week 7?
Well, I'll tell you what. I had to really fight myself here, Johnny, because I want to be putting Pat Mahomes on this show every single week.
Man.
Okay? We just got done watching that Sunday night game. We just got done watching that guy torch the Bengals. I mean, just making defenders out there look silly.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is a beast. I just want to give him props because he's so much fun to watch. He's doing it at an elite level each and every week, and he doesn't care what you think about his hair or his boyish good looks or his voice. He balls, dude, and it's amazing to see.
Yep.
But keeping it at quarterback, my crown, at least for this week and for the last few weeks, is Mitchell Trubisky, or Truth Bisky, as I like to call him, because this guy is dealing the truth out there. Maybe he's not an NFL star. You watch it and you say, okay, maybe he's not. But he is putting up fantasy numbers, Johnny, and it's time to take notice on this and actually say, okay, it's time that this offense has got the weapons for him. It's putting him in positions to do things. He had another 300-yard game here. He had 26 of 50 passing for 333 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I know what you're saying. Oh, yeah, he had a big Hail Mary at the end that almost scored. Okay, so that
was exciting.
Knockdown,
that was super exciting.
It was exciting. I thought they were going to score there.
Yeah.
But if you take that away, let's look at the other side of the ball, or the other part of his game. He ran for 81 yards, Johnny.
Could have been.
I mean,
if they actually
and a
just,
touchdown.
Yeah, if they just did what you actually run, he could have had a lot. He could have had 150. He ran 70 yards on one play to gain 8. But
so we've talked about how he's an athlete playing the quarterback position. He's built that way. He scored 33 points, Johnny. And if you look at over the last 3 weeks, he has 105 fantasy points, 11 touchdowns, and only 3 picks, and 181 rushing yards. This guy is doing it. He's now done it for a little bit over a month or a little bit under a month, whatever, give or take, based on the bye. And he is got a system that he seems to understand and weapons that he seems to be comfortable with. I like Trubisky maybe season long, Johnny. Like, I'm really starting to think like he's doing it here.
It's hard to deny here. You know, he's
and with a good defense that gives them the ball back more times than not, they're going to get opportunities here.
Yeah. My only thing is, hey, Matt Nagy, can you please come to the Arizona Cardinals? Because we could surely use you, man. All right, I'm going to pivot over to the running back position for my crown, and that's Kareem Hunt, right? We saw him. We just talked about the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy ran for, he had 15 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown. He also was 5 for 5 on the receiving end for 55 yards and an additional 2 touchdowns. Travis, Kareem Hunt, after starting off pretty slow, I mean, a lot of owners were kind of panicking on Kareem Hunt. For the first 3 games, he had 52 touches for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he only had 1 reception for 5 yards and a touchdown. People were panicking because they spent a top 8 pick on him, sometimes even earlier than that. But Travis, in his last 4 games, he has had 60 carries, so only 8 additional carries, but he's gone for 341 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. And then on the receiving end, he's added 14 receptions for 221 yards and an additional 3 touchdowns. Travis, I think that Kareem Hunt is someone that if you were one of those patient owners, he could be one of those people that help you get to that championship weekend. With this offense, he is now the RB3 on the year. And this offense seems to be one of the most potent offense in the league. You just touch on Patrick Mahomes, and they're kind of building a little rapport there. He's realizing he can check it down. He doesn't have to check it down 15 yards down the field. He could check it down 5 and still pick up the additional 10 with Kareem Hunt.
And how dangerous is that if Pat Mahomes is starting to realize that he can just check it down and he's got Kareem Hunt as a weapon there? I mean,
deadly.
That was the thing. You talked about in the first 3 games. I remember after 2 weeks, we're posting our rankings up, and we've got Kareem Hunt way down, and people are asking us why. Like, in PPR, why is Kareem Hunt so low? And it's because he had 5 targets through, like, the first 2 or 3 games, and we were like, this is not Kareem Hunt of last year. Well, it flipped completely, and he is now killing it. And now if you're talking about a redraft, Johnny, I mean, Kareem Hunt's going in the top 5.
Oh, for sure.
Just based on the production, the offense, his and that's the other thing about this offense. It's going to live in scoring range. We saw it tonight with in the Bengals game. He is going to get plenty of opportunities, whether it be receiving or running the football.
Travis, let me just ask you a question. And this is just a fan question. Are the Kansas City Chiefs like the new Cinderella team that America's just falling in love with? I mean, they're getting flexed to every single Sunday night game.
I think
they're
that
fun to watch. I mean,
yeah, and you can hear it. You watch Chris Collinsworth or some of the guys on the ESPN broadcast calling him Showtime. People are falling in love with Mahomes on air. You can see it right there. And what's not to love? The guy is killing it. He's got a rocket for an arm. He could literally make any throw on the field, and he's got no fear on that field. He's studying. Every time they show him on the sidelines, he's sitting there looking at the next play. He's talking with Andy Reid. I think it's just great stuff to watch. So, yeah, I would agree with you. But speaking of great stuff to watch is my second crown here, Johnny, and that's Adam Thielen. My boy went out there. The undrafted Adam Thielen went out there and scored 100 yards in 7 straight games. It was his 7th straight game. So 10 more targets.
Stud.
10 more targets. Our number 1 wide receiver, by the way, in our rankings last week. 10 targets, 9 receptions, 110
Travis,
yards.
I think that you would say that's right.
Well, it's not a whisper anymore. Now we're the fantasy yellers. We're the shouters because we're saying, look, Adam Thielen is a beast. I remember after week 3, I went out and bought Adam Thielen. I traded for Adam Thielen in a league because I was about,
kudos.
People were calling me crazy because Zeke was part of that deal. I'm not backing down. Half-point PPR, you give me Adam Thielen. This guy is dealing right now. Dealing Thielen, as I like to call him. 10 targets, 9 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. He now averages 16 points a game, Johnny, in standard, and 29.8 in PPR. Not really a wide receiver that I want more in fantasy football than Adam Thielen, and that's over Julio or Antonio Brown or OBJ, and that's just because, 1, the Vikings continue to throw at a historic rate. 2, Adam Thielen is the guy, and this guy isn't dropping anything, man. Miraculous catches, touchdowns left and right. I love it. He's my crown.
He's been awesome. He's been really fun to watch. When I'm talking about my secondary crown, I got to give the people a tight end, Travis, because the tight end position has been so volatile this year. But I got to give it up to my boy Ertz, Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. This guy did not score a touchdown today. However, he did go 9 of 10 for 138 yards, Travis. He is currently the tight end number 1 on the year, which I'll do a little humble brag here. I did say that I thought that this could possibly happen. And, a lot of people were doubting because Nick Foles was going to start off the year. But Zach Ertz has just been a stud. He's had 76 targets on the year and he's caught 57 of those for 618 yards. But he's only had 2 touchdowns, which means that he's super safe because he's getting the yardage. Last year, people wanted to doubt him because he would score he scored in like 10 or 12 of the games that he played in. Well, this year, he's doing the opposite. He is just racking up the yardage. They don't have any other receivers beside Alshon there that Carson Wentz is depending on or relying on, and their run game is a little suspect. So Zach Ertz has been a stud, and so I definitely give him my crown for this week.
Yeah, a couple of things that have benefited him. You talk about the yardage, injuries to the wide receiving core, injuries to the running backs, which means it's Alshon and Ertz, and pretty much nobody else at this point, and those two are feasting. And yeah, Johnny, he's doing it. I love it. He, like you said, in a year where the tight end is so thin, this guy is coming up big for you each and every week.
I did want to do a little honorable mention here for the crown, and that's Emmanuel Sanders. This game was back on Thursday night, and unfortunately, I think he could be the reason why I lose this week in my fantasy matchup. But he threw.
But it's not about you, Johnny.
Yeah, it's not about me. He threw for a touchdown and had a receiving touchdown. This guy continued. I give you props, Big Travie. You called this in the offseason. You said Emmanuel Sanders will be the number 1 for Denver. His game style fits Case Keenum more than Demaryius Thomas, which word came out today that the Broncos were possibly shopping Demaryius Thomas. And Emmanuel Sanders continues to look like he is a very solid wide receiver week in and week out.
Couldn't agree more, brother. Emmanuel Sanders is killing it, and an offense that's struggling. He is he's a shining light in that offense.
All right, so we're going to go from the shining lights of offenses to the turning off the lights for their teams and their fantasy owners. We got the Week 7 downs or downers. Can we say that on the show? That's like kind of like a drug reference there, but we got the downers here for Week 7. Or Travis, you wanna lead this off with your downer of Week 7, man?
Yeah, I will. I want to talk about the Eagles. We talked a little bit about Ertz and Alshon, but Corey Clement is a guy that I spent a lot of time this week really prepping guys up on Instagram. So Whisper Nation, I want to apologize a little bit for that because Corey Clement went out there. He rushed the ball 8 times for 6 yards, only got 2 targets, caught both of them for 16 yards. He wasn't effective at all. He was out carried by Wendell Smallwood 8-9. This is a full committee approach here. This game was rough. It was a defensive struggle too for a lot of the game. It opened up a little bit there at the end, but it was a lot of back and forth. There was some wind going on. Shouldn't affect the run game, but it definitely affected. I don't know what was affecting Corey Clement, but he was. I don't know if I can trust him or Smallwood going forward. They got Jacksonville next. Although Jacksonville doesn't seem to be as scary anymore. Yeah. And then the bye, Corey Clement might be a guy you have to stash and wait and see down the line. Luckily, he was a waiver guy anyways, more than likely for you. He's not a guy that you had to rely on. If you put him in, understandable. I liked him in this matchup. I thought it was going to be his time to shine. They don't look in any hurry to get away from timeshares in that backfield.
No, and then you saw Josh Adams, the rookie out of Notre Dame, come into the game, and he was actually the best running back of the trio. Travis, he did have a good college resume coming in. He's a bigger back, but yeah, like you said, you don't know what kind of splits these guys are going to get, and so it makes it super questionable. We did have several questions on him, and unfortunately, this is the way fantasy football goes sometimes. I'm going to flip up to my downs, my first one, and it is also in the running back position, and that's a guy you took top 3, sometimes even top 2, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know what's going on in Dallas, but that offensive line is nowhere what it looked like a year ago or even 2 years ago, and Zeke went 15 for 34, and he added 2 targets for only 5. He had 5
catches.
Targets. He had 2 catches on those 5 targets for only 9 yards. Travis, he's averages 2.3 yards per carry in this game and 1.7 yards after contact. Over this entire year, he is currently tied for 25th with Peyton Barber with only 2.9 yards after contact. That's a little bit troubling for a guy who's kind of known for running over people and truck sticking people. That offensive line has been troubling all season long with no actual threat on the outside. Defenses are loading that box and saying, all right, Dak, you beat us. If you beat us, we're okay with it. We're not going to let Zeke beat us. And this was definitely a down week for any Zeke owner that was looking for a monster week against, to be frank with you, a Washington defense or an entire Washington team that is just a huge question mark. I don't know what to make of this Washington team.
And yet they're first in the NFC East. It's really wild right now. Once again, the NFL, when you think you know something, it likes to smack you in the face and say, shut up, you don't know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Ezekiel Elliott, though, I think you hit it right on the head there, Johnny. Like, this offense is not trustworthy. And Dak, it starts with Dak and those wide receivers. And because of that, Zeke is suffering. Listen, I traded away Zeke in another league as a part of a package to get Adam Thielen on my roster. I'm not mad at it right now. I know it's a little crazy, but in a PPR system, like, if you can fix your running back position, you might want to look at getting piecing off Zeke. Yes, he's talented, but if you can get a nice haul for that, you might get some name value. And like every other week, you're wondering what is up with the Dallas Cowboys.
I certainly know, because the guy who called in, who you made that trade with, he sent me this. He said, I want you to play this on the show. Yep. he wants Thielen back over Zeke.
Who doesn't
Who
at this
doesn't,
point? But
right?
Thielen's staying on my side, because on the opposite side of the field for Thielen is my down this week, and that's Stefon Diggs, Johnny.
My boy.
He continues his downward spiral. He hasn't scored since week 2. He has back-to-back weeks of 33 yards. 33 yards, Johnny. And what's wild about this game is he had 14 targets, right? Caught the ball 8 times, but yet still only 33 yards. There are some hope there. There is some hope there because of the targets, but he's just not having that elite breakout we were hoping for. You know, we talked in the offseason about the comps he gets to Antonio Brown because of his speed, his route running, his footwork. It's just not showing up with Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins seems to just want to give that ball to Adam Thielen.
Well, I think a major part of this, Travis, is that offensive line. It's not giving him enough time to develop.
I mean, look at what it's doing to look at what it's doing to the run game.
Yeah.
Like the run game is not effective. Obviously, Latavius Murray has had 2 back-to-back weeks. One was the Arizona Cardinals, who we've been
talked
over
about
that a
many
million
times on the show.
The other is, he got 2 touchdowns this week, but only 69 yards. So he's not been very effective behind that offensive line. And even in the small sample size that Cook's been on the field this year, wasn't very effective rushing the ball either. Yes, the line was a question mark last year even, but Case Keenum still was able to do some things behind that line for those wide receivers. So it just kind of makes you wonder, is it the Thielen show for the rest of the year? Can you trust Diggs in any situation? Is it going to be a pristine matchup option only for you with Diggs going forward?
It's kind of crazy, Travis, is we've seen this often from Diggs, right? He comes out, he's on fire. You think, oh, this is the year he's going to be a wide receiver 1. I certainly thought it. And then he'll just disappear for several games at a time. And, I mean, he'll pop up. There'll be games where he will return your value, but unfortunately, he can't be trusted, especially with the ups and downs of Kirk Cousins as well. He's not been the quarterback that you certainly thought you were drafting. Travis, speaking of quarterbacks, my second downer for this week is quarterback Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans. He went 12 for 24 for 139 yards and a touchdown. He only had one rushing attempt for 1 yard. Now, a part of this, the rushing attempts could be due to and most likely are due to the fact that he had the bruised lung. But if you look at the last 2 weeks, he really is struggling and scoring. He has just 20 fantasy points combined over the last 2 weeks. Better days are ahead, I think. But Travis, I don't think this is the guy, and this is the problem that I was telling people in drafting him, because his value is going so high that I thought that there would be some regression. I didn't think it would be this much. But what do you make of Deshaun Watson? His next 5 games are at Miami, at Denver. He has a bye. Then at Washington, Tennessee, and Cleveland. So not murderer's row, but it's certainly,
only one of those teams gives me a pause for concern, and that's Washington. Just based on what we've seen them do the last couple of weeks with Carolina and with Dallas. I think that especially in Washington, they're a decent.
Denver look at what they did to Arizona Cardinals, and the offensive line for the Texans is very comparable to that of the Arizona Cardinals. That's why I have pause there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna compare Houston's offense to Arizona's in any way, shape, or form.
I said offensive line.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they're gonna put up more points on Denver than Arizona did. Like, I would put a lot of money on that. But like, so Miami, Denver, Washington, Tennessee, Cleveland, like, I'm not scared of these. Listen, his rushing ability will come back. I think that as long as the injury isn't more serious than they're letting on, Deshaun Watson's going to bounce back a little bit here. This was a tough divisional game on the road. I think Miami's been getting kind of torched by teams lately. You watch Detroit come in and torch them. The week before it was Chicago, and then the week before that it was New England. So now Miami, who had started the year 3-0 and had a very suffocating secondary, has actually led up quite a bit of yardage over the last few weeks and a lot of touchdowns. So I think Deshaun Watson's actually in a get-right spot against Miami at home next week, especially if Brock Osweiler is still the starter because the defense is going to be giving the ball back quite a bit to him. So if Deshaun Watson goes out and lays another clunker against Miami, then I'd be willing to panic. But he had two defensive struggles back to back. And remember, Buffalo, we talked about Buffalo last week. They're improving on defense too. I wouldn't say it's time to panic just yet. But we'll see. I mean, listen, those kind of injuries linger, and he's not a guy to shy away from contact, unfortunately.
One thing of note,
because he should be.
One thing of note as well, Travis, sorry to interrupt you, but one thing of note is that you look at his wide receivers, and they've all been banged up as well to this point. So there are better days. I believe that there are better days ahead for Deshaun Watson, but we will see.
And in conjunction with the Kiki Cutie going down, we actually saw Lamar Miller have his best game. So 22 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. So if the running game starts to get going, you might see a little bit of a balance here that helps Watson out.
Speaking of Lamar Miller, Travis, he is my honorable mention for the Week 7 rebounds. I was going to do a full write-up on him. However, a little forecast here is that you chose 2 running backs, so I didn't want to add another running back. But he is my honorable mention. You and I
see how Johnny just blamed me for why he couldn't use Lamar Miller. Yeah. I hope Whisper Nation saw that.
Hey, that's what I do.
Shots fired.
As the host of the show.
Well, let's just jump right into these rebounds then, Johnny.
All right. Why don't you give us your first rebound? I want
to just I'm so pumped on this. Yeah. Listen, I talked to Matt Patricia, and he listened
straight
to
up.
Whisper Nation. Straight up to his face. Straight and Kerryon Johnson got 19 carries. That's my boy. He got 19 carries for 158 yards, Johnny. After only 70 yards and getting no goal line carries last week, Kerryon came in and did his thing. That was his highest carry count, his highest yardage total. And yes, I know Blunt still got in there and stole a touchdown, but before he did, Kerryon got a goal line look. So that's what was encouraging for me, is that Kerryon got that first crack at the goal line. He just didn't convert, and then Blunt went in and he did his dumb thing. But listen, 19 carries is big boy numbers, and I love to see that, and it's just on that borderline of 200, and he flipping looked good, a 70-yard gusher out there.
So Travis...
He looks great, and I love that rebound for Kerryon, and I love where his stock is going right now.
So to add on to stockpile onto the already awesome stats that you've put up already so far, Kerryon Johnson for the year has had 69 touches for 444 yards, right? All the other running backs for Detroit, they have had 66 rushing attempts for less than half of that amount. They have barely 200 yards rushing. It's like, yeah, you were totally right in what you're saying. If you don't know what we're talking about, go to our Instagram page. We have a short video clip. It's hilarious of Travis pleading with Matt Patricia. It seems like Matt Patricia saw the video and he reacted to it, because they gave Kerryon the ball and it worked. He looked great. Dare I say, Travis, this is a true story, true confession here. I almost, because I took what you were saying. I believed it. Of course I do, because you're my partner. I almost offered, and I was thinking about it, offering David Johnson for Kerryon Johnson yesterday in a keeper league. And now I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot that I didn't do that. Because Kerryon looked great, man.
Johnny's over here telling me that you can't sell David Johnson, and yet he's trying to sell David Johnson behind my back.
No, I said I couldn't. I wouldn't do it for CMC. Which after 2 weeks, I'm winning that bet. Just so you know, after 2 weeks, keep you up on date. But I will say, speaking of bets, Travis, you kicked my butt this week in our bet this week. I digress with the Mark Ingram argument there.
And I don't want to. Why don't I just jump into that?
Jump
then?
into it
Because
since
here's the thing.
since
My
we're on the
rebound
subject
for the
here.
week here is Alvin Kamara. Listen, he disappeared on fantasy owners. There was such a panic, and I felt like it was prolonged because they went on bye right after that. So they had the Monday night game. Drew Brees comes out. He breaks record. Alvin Kamara is disappearing. Taysom Hill has taken all his touchdowns. Twitter is on fire. The sky is falling, and Alvin Kamara is just gone. And what am I going to do? I took advantage of this in a couple leagues and traded for Alvin Kamara, and he came out. I know he didn't blow anybody away here in this game. He only had, he's coming off that Monday night game with 24 rushing yards, 15 receiving, but then he out-touches Ingram in this game. He got 75 total yards and a touchdown, 17 carries to Ingram's 12, and they each got 2 targets. So in a game where they needed to win, which is what I predicted, this is the thing. No offense to Mark Ingram, and this is not a slight on Mark Ingram. He is a great running back. Okay? Alvin Kamara is a better weapon for this offense to use 100%. When they need to win.
Yes.
Okay? And so when they are in a game that they have to have, they know that he creates a mismatch for those defenses.
Yeah.
Even an elite defense like Baltimore was, Kamara was better he was more effective than Ingram. And I figured that would be the case just because you can telegraph what Ingram's going to do a little bit more.
Right.
Not saying they're going to stop him every time, but you can kind of see what he's going to do. Either way, that's neither here nor there. Alvin Kamara is my rebound. All of his owners can kind of take that slight sigh of relief. They're okay. He's okay. I think both of these guys retain value going forward. Ingram will have better days.
Yeah.
And they're gonna play, these bad defenses in the South again, in Tampa and Atlanta. So there's some games on the schedules for both of these guys to feast. But Alvin Kamara, my second rebound for the week. So he definitely rebounded for his owners out there.
I think that you kind of hit it on the head there in, game script, right? So if New Orleans is projected to be up by a lot, I think that fits Mark Ingram a little bit more. If they are projected to be playing from behind, like you had said in your sit and start article, then it's more of a game script for Alvin Kamara. A little simple plea here, a little wish here. How great would it be if Mark Ingram were to go to New England
or Philly,
please?
I could see him being
as a Mark Ingram owner. I would love that. All right, I'm going to switch over to the opposite side of the field, though, Travis, with my rebounds. I'll just get into them real quick. And in that same game, John Brown, kudos to you, a guy from my own backyard. I miss you, John Brown. Wish you would come back. He had 7 for 7 targets and catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. It could have been and it should have been 2 touchdowns, Travis, but he got chased down from behind and then went down at the 1 yard line. Travis, I'm sorry,
I don't mean to cut you off. So John Brown was a big guy this week for a lot of questions in our Instagram stories, a lot of questions on our posts. What do I do with John Brown this week? So I dove in a little bit deeper, right? And we talked about it in our preview episode that the Saints were one of the worst teams on plays of 15 yards or more down the field. Okay, their completion percentage that they were allowing was the highest in the league on those plays. And so I was confident that this was a get-right game for John Brown. So confident he was in the player stay-away article on the fantasywhispers.com as a play because I knew he was going to have a matchup here. And the thing is that he's getting yes, he's not catching a lot of his targets, right, John? But he is he's getting 20% of the market share. He's getting 25% of the market share on deep routes, gigantic routes. Like his yards per catch is through the roof. It's going to be even larger once we break down the numbers this week because he's got 2 bombs in this one. So the point is that when he gets it, he feasts, and he feasted on that New Orleans secondary.
Yep. And then speaking of feast, for my second rebound, I have Trey Burton. Welcome in, Trey Burton. He went 9 for 11. Travis, this is when we talked about him on all offseason. This is what we thought. This is what we thought we were getting. He had 11 targets today. He caught 9 of them for 126 yards and a touchdown. This was after last week he had posted 4 of 4. He was just getting, the most he was getting was 4 targets in a game, and he had 23 receiving yards. He did catch a touchdown last week as well. But Travis, he had a monster game today. He is currently the tight end 5 on the year. In a landscape of untested and unseasoned tight ends, Trey Burton has scored more than 8 fantasy points in a standard league in 4 of 6 games. Is he someone that you can trust at the tight end position and roll out weekly, or...
People need to stop using the word trust or thinking of the word trust with tight ends the way they do with every other player. Listen, if I hear, but he's touchdown dependent again about a tight end, they all are. Yeah. This is what they are. And so if this guy's going to get any week that he's going to get 11 targets.
Zach Ertz.
Right. Yeah. Or even Kelsey.
Travis Kelsey. You're right.
At this point, if he's getting 11 targets in any week, you got to be happy and take that, because the positional advantage that he's going to give you on those weeks will help you win your week. And so you have to keep rolling Trey Burton out there, because what are you going to do? You're going to drop him for a Chris Herndon for the Jets, who scored back-to-back weeks, like another touchdown-dependent guy, CJ Uzomah, who was a no-show, he got a touchdown tonight, but he's also touchdown-dependent. I would rather roll with Burton, who they paid big money. They brought him in. They won a scheme for him. Just because he's not getting it every week, none of them are,
Right. All right, Big Travie, that is it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining in. We are the Fantasy Whispers. That is Big Travie, and I'm Giant Game Time Hicks. If you like what you heard tonight, please go over and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you enjoy. That is on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Stitcher, or anywhere else you like to get your podcast, as well as check us out on YouTube. We got videos up all the time of our episodes, and we do Whisperspectives and little video clips. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Travis, you want to let them know about our social media accounts?
Yeah, that's right. If you hit us up on Instagram, we're going live every day giving you updates. And we've got all sorts of graphics out there that break down a bunch of stats and rankings that we have, high performances from the week. Maybe get a couple guys that flew under the radar so you guys know. And then if you're really trying to dig deep throughout the week, we're trying to get you guys all prepared and ready for your fantasy matchups each and every week. And that starts literally on Tuesday.
Yep.
And that starts with our waiver wire piece on Tuesday. It starts with my play or stay away on Thursday. You got rankings on Wednesday, and all this happens at thefantasywhispers.com. Check it out there. And of course, we will do our game previews every Thursday and Friday, breaking it down for the week for you. So me and Johnny are pumped to get you guys dominated. And by this time, by the time you're listening to this, you're already gearing up for week 8, which is halfway through the NFL season, man.
Yep.
We are grinding through it.
All right. Until next time, that's Big Travie, and I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.